Welcome to The Quiet Truth, where lay Catholics address the secular culture. I'm Tom Borek with today's installment, Training for Failure. Consider this proposal for a drug abuse prevention program for youth. The goal is to produce adults who will have the knowledge, experience, and commitment to maintain a drug-free lifestyle for life. Children are given the following instructions. 1. When you graduate from or drop out of high school, move away from home as soon as possible in order to have the privacy needed to experience recreational drugs. 2. Use as much alcohol, marijuana, hashish, opioids, amphetamines, barbiturates, and assorted hallucinogens as you want in a safe, sanitary environment for as long as you want. 3. When you're ready to leave, have a formal and uplifting ceremony celebrating your commitment to a perpetual drug-free lifestyle for the rest of your life, or until you wish to return to the program for a refresher. The program will be advertised everywhere, but especially in schools, on social media, and in popular fiction, books, TV, and films, in which nearly all the heroes and their friends will be participants in or graduates of the program. What do you think? Pretty good plan? No? Let's count the reasons why. 1. Encouraging drug use sends a message that recreational drug use, no matter how extreme, is acceptable behavior. This will increase recreational drug use. 2. Exposing more young people to a greater amount and variety of drugs increases the likelihood of addiction. 3. Even without a physical addiction, making drug abuse a habit increases the likelihood that the behavior will continue. And 4. Making the program available to those who have committed to give up drug use tempts them and encourages them to fail. You'll be happy to know that this silly plan doesn't really exist. It's just too foolish and counterproductive. Unfortunately, there is a similar plan to strengthen families by training young adults to be faithful, trustworthy, and committed husbands, wives, and parents. It's called the Do It All Family Fidelity for Youth program, and it is everywhere. Children are given the following instructions. 1. When you graduate or drop out of high school, move away from home as soon as possible in order to have the privacy needed to entertain potential bed partners. 2. Controlling your sex drive and living a chaste life is foolish and perhaps even impossible if willing partners are available. 3. Have sex with any willing, attractive partner if that activity will provide an evening's pleasure, regardless of whether either of you wants a long-term relationship. 4. Move in together if that is more convenient, regardless of whether either of you intends marriage. 5. Break up whenever the relationship no longer meets your needs or another relationship seems more attractive. 6. After experiencing a number of relationships, make a judgment about which will make you the happiest. Reject the others and pursue a long-term commitment and/or marriage on the best terms you can. And 7. Hold a formal and uplifting ceremony in which you promise to remain faithful to your new spouse, with the understanding that you can always leave if the relationship ceases to please you or if another relationship will please you more. This program is advertised everywhere, in schools, on social media, and in popular fiction, books, TV, and films, in which nearly all the heroes and their friends are participants in or graduates of the program. What do you think? Pretty good plan? No. It is not a good plan. It is a terrible plan. Let's count the reasons why. 1. Encouraging sex outside of marriage, that is, fornication, sends the message that sex outside of marriage is acceptable behavior, which tends to undermine one's ability to be chaste and faithful during marriage. 2. Encouraging sex without commitment sends the message that sex without commitment is acceptable and tends to create a habit of withdrawing from relationships when difficulties arise or when a new potential partner with an apparently greener lawn, so to speak, appears on the scene. This also undermines one's ability to be chaste and faithful during marriage. And 3. The fact that these messages have been working on one's spouse throughout his or her life tends to undermine one's ability to trust one's spouse, especially if that spouse has been a participant in the program. And without trust in one's spouse, one has more difficulty facing one's own temptation to stray. Certainly, extramarital sex is a poor preparation for lifelong fidelity, But does it have other qualities that make it a worthwhile activity? Let's arrange the universe of sexual relationships on a continuum based on the degree of commitment and caring involved. At the top of the commitment ladder, you have the absolute commitment of Judeo-Christian marriage. Both parties promise to bind themselves together for life and mean it. No exceptions. This degree of commitment fosters trust and provides emotional security for spouses and for their children. Now, some would say that the other extreme, the lowest rung of the ladder, is rape, in which the aggressor not only lacks any degree of commitment and caring, but ignores or enjoys the pain and humiliation of the other. Just a short step up is cynically lying for sex, as when someone promises a lifelong commitment in return for a temporary relationship. I hope we can all agree that these relationships are immoral by any legitimate standard. Now, others might argue that the opposite of total marital commitment is neither rape by violence nor rape by trickery, but sex that lacks any emotional relationship. These are the same people who argue that the opposite of love is not hate, but indifference. And they have a point. A relationship characterized by indifference is, in a sense, the least committed relationship of all. Imagine someone who selects a partner for an evening of sex as casually as asking a stranger to share a game of darts or to play some golf. Now, there are those who argue that this sort of sex is a good thing. In my experience, they're typically individuals who are too damaged or too immature to give and receive unselfish love. The good news is that they are few in number. The bad news is that they tend to injure those naive enough to try to pursue romantic relationships with them. I hope we can agree that their preferred relationships are highly dysfunctional and unworthy of beings created in the image of God. All this leaves us with a whole range of sexual relationships characterized by various degrees of caring and commitment by both parties, but without the total commitment of Catholic marriage. These range from two 15-year-olds groping each other, for whom the concept of eternity is indistinguishable from next semester, to older adults who have been fiancés for a decade or more. All have one thing in common. At no point do both parties commit themselves for life. Instead, the partners are likely to have different degrees of commitment in mind. One may want the relationship to last for life, while the other is just waiting for the end of college. One may want the uncommitted relationship to last indefinitely, while the other wants to either receive a marriage proposal soon or call it quits. Even if they can avoid outright lies, complete honesty and candor about their feelings and plans is effectively out of the question. Nevertheless, at some point during my lifetime, these kinds of sexual relationships became the norm, and objections to them, even from Catholic clergy, have been muted at best. Somehow, pointless and hurtful premarital sexual relationships have become an accepted rite of passage, like drinking to excess or driving under the influence. When it comes to misusing sex, our culture is overwhelmingly on the side of vice, and the voice of virtue is barely a whisper. The result is that even children educated from kindergarten to college in Catholic institutions can easily come away with the impression that the Church is not serious about teaching that extramarital sex is mortally sinful. Let me not equivocate. I believe that most Catholic clergy, and certainly the vast majority of Catholic teachers and professors, are not at all serious about teaching that extramarital sex is mortally sinful. Why? Are they afraid of ridicule or unpopularity? Are they worried about reducing tuition revenue for Catholic schools? Are they at a loss for words? Has their own faith been weakened by the continuous exposure to the popular culture? The answer to all of these questions is yes. I suggest that all faithful Catholic laity are called to become part of the solution to this problem by learning to distinguish between truth and lies, and by protecting ourselves and our families from foolish and evil cultural messages. It is the greatest challenge we will face as a group during our lifetimes. Mary, the Mother of God, told us at Fatima that more souls are damned by sins of the flesh than by any other failing. The availability of contraceptives, surgical abortions, and abortifacient drugs have not diminished the truth of that statement in the slightest. More to come. Thank you for your kind attention.